Death by Beauty is the fifth in the Gemma Lincoln Private Investigator series from Australian crime writer Gabrielle Lord. Welcome to Bookshots.
Thank you, Caroline.
Where is Gemma at in this book, Death by Beauty?
Well, you know, she kind of can't really age terribly much. So she's in that late 30s, pushing 40, sort of twilight zone where she seems to hang. And she's just become a mother. She's settled down with a very good man who really cherishes her, but she's not emotionally free of someone else. And she's trying to restart her business, which has been in disarray, during the pregnancy and the early months of motherhood.
It's really hard, isn't it, to juggle being a private investigator and being a mother. That's very clear in this book.
I think it's very hard, and it was very hard for the writer, because the writer has to deal with that baby every minute of the book. I thought I had problems in another series where I had to have this kid's backpack always in where it was, track it all the way through. Backpacks you can throw away and come back later. You can't do that with a bubba. So I found it very hard, and I imagine it would be immensely, 1,000% more difficult to be the mother and the businesswoman and running the whole thing from home.
The thing that kind of surprises me about her in this book is that she hasn't lost her kind of feisty ways from before she was a mother. So she goes out and takes phenomenal personal risks in order to entrap a suspect in a way that, no right-thinking mother should.
She's very, very risk-taking. That's one of her character defects, but it's a really good device for the book because it puts her at the cutting edge of the action. One
of the things that she does is she's looking into the whole world of online dating, and she's trying to catch someone who has been a sort of serial offender as an online dater. How did you investigate that particular plotline? Because that is so topical.
I had some friends who were using that as a way of meeting people. I've got to say, so far none of them have been terribly successful. So my experience is from listening to those women talking about the experiences they had or failed to have with the various people. And also I think it's such a great place to hide in. You can pretend to be someone that you're not. And I think that's what gives it its intrigue and danger.
One of the other topics that makes this book so very much on the money is that it's all around aging and genetics. What was it that you particularly wanted to explore in this book about those themes?
The thought of surgeons with knives coming at my face, even if I'm heavily anaesthetised, fills me with horror. So I imagine that women who do that have to really push through a lot of natural, instinctive resistance to it, which makes me think that it must be of such importance that it's almost a life and death matter in a way. Is it to do with myself being all mixed up with my appearance, that I am what I appear to be? I don't know. I don't actually have any friends who have gone through cosmetic surgery, so I haven't been able to research that. I've spoken to people in the business and researched it, the cosmetic surgery, and there's a lot of horror stories, as we know about. In fact, there's a woman being prosecuted right now for botched, awful treatments. So that was in my mind, the horror of going under the knife.
Now, into the mix of aging and genetic manipulation, you introduce a character, suspect, who you portray as a sort of urban vampire. He attacks beautiful young women. Some of them are subsequently murdered, others are left alone. What made you want to borrow from another genre, from the vampire genre, which is absolutely enjoying a moment right now, and describe the killer in those terms?
Well, I thought it would be great fun. People wanted me to take out the vampire, but I insisted on keeping him in. I think it's fun. I think vampire teeth are great fun. I love the look of them. You can buy them in joke shops and things. And also, it occurred to me that there is that sort of sense of being preyed on and sucked dry by these fears of ageing and I think of the enormous amounts of money I spend on silly creams and things that are all basically the same stuff. So I just felt that it was the right image, the right conceit. And also it sets up an intrigue in the reader's mind. But nobody liked him except me.
Apart from the theme of ageing and genetics, what were the other things in this book that you wanted to kind of tackle?
Well, the terrific cutting edge of surgery, the terrific advances that are being made in modern science with tailored DNA structured remedies for cancers, and really marvellous work's being done where you can have something done tailored to suit just you.
You've obviously read a lot of crime fiction because in order to write it you have to understand the rules, and there are some rules obviously to this genre. So for you, what are the key ingredients of good crime fiction if you're a consumer, if you're reading it?
You've got to have a really interesting protagonist who is someone that people, they don't have to like terribly much, but they've got to be terribly engaged with. They've got to really care about this person. Even if the person is an asshole, they've got to care that maybe they get their comeuppance or...
Because Gemma is actually very likeable. And one of the things that I like about Gemma is that she really values her friendships. So she may be entangled emotionally in terms of the men in her life, but her girlfriends are very important to her, aren't they?
Oh yes. The survival team of the girlfriends, who come over when the heart is broken and ply you with champagne and smoked salmon and things.
But also as colleagues who
as
help
colleagues,
you,
yes.
And you also help them.
Yes.
So while she's in a sense on the outer as a PI, she is still in constant dialogue with her mates in the police who are female and who are willing to let her in on the act, whereas the men less so.
Less so. Well, it's becoming very, very difficult now for private investigators. Many years ago, in fact, when I first started out on this genre, which I didn't mean to, it kind of got me, it was much easier to get information. Now the police are much more rigid about disclosing things. It's all now, security coded. Anyone who goes onto the registry and finds out who belongs to what car leaves an electronic trace. They have to explain why they wanted this information. I mean, once someone just rang a mate in, the registry and got whatever they needed. And also it's very important for police now to protect, procedural information. The sorts of things that I could do in the 80s, Gemma can't do now. That makes it hard for a crime writer. How do I get my PI in on the action? It's becoming increasingly more difficult. So that's why Angie has to use subterfuge and say, oops, I left my briefcase here by mistake. Oh, shame. That sort of thing.
Right, so that Gemma's
She'd lose her job. She would lose her job now.
Access to
if
that
she did
information
that. Yeah.
Because she couldn't do it any other
That's
way
right.
legitimately. You really couldn't ask for a more topical crime novel than Death by Beauty. It's got ageing, genetics and vampires, all in a gritty Sydney setting.